I didn't expect to not be able to talk. Oh my god. Fine, everything's fine. I'm distracting myself. Hello. It is Sunday. It's 2 a.m. No, it's Monday. And I finished The Dragon Republic. You know how it's the kind of book that I want to keep reading and reading and reading, but it's so dark that when I do pause reading it, although I do want to get back to the story, it's hard to, because I know how dark it's going to be, how difficult it's going to be to read. I want to say I still love Rin as a character. She is just layered and complex. She is not perfect. I don't know how many times I've said that. We really see her battle through everything that she has gone through in the first book and what she's going through here in the second book. It's already established that she has power. She's gonna be a very powerful character. It actually had like a part here that essentially mirrors famous Spider-Man quote, "With great power comes great responsibility." I don't know if you can see, but I cried earlier. I was holding out hope that I would not cry. I had a few moments in this book where I was starting to feel tense, like, oh, is something going to happen? Is something going to happen? I don't know if R.F. Kuang did that on purpose, but I think that made the ending even more emotional, because I had different points in the story where it felt like something very emotional I feel like I'm going to cry, or something very emotional is going to happen, but they didn't. And I was just hoping, that nothing is going to happen at the end, but... So I don't even know how to talk about this book. It's not just Rin that is flawed in the story. Everyone is. Everyone feels flawed and human. You have these characters, like these main characters that you care for, you root for, and you want them, and you want to protect them. But there are definitely moments where you just want to shake them. Rin has gone through a lot. They all did. They all have gone through a lot. There's a lot of character change and character growth, not just from... I feel like because... in the Poppy War, the first book, it's like they're awakening into this world of war, of making choices that will affect people who are innocent, who are unable to protect themselves. And now they're held in this position where their choices, even though it's aimed towards victory, it still will cost a lot of lives, and they're facing that, especially Rin after that first book. And you can tell that she's running away from this, and it's like that battle within her, and the way she kind of reacts to her wanting to deflect responsibility. And she's aware of that, but she doesn't want to work through it. And I can see that throughout the book, where she has moments of inner monologue and inner realization of what she's doing, the choices that she's making, and her motivations on making those choices, etc. It's difficult to talk about this book without spoiling anything. I really didn't know where Poppy War, where this was going to go. Like, I didn't know what more element could be added into here, but there's so much to peel back plot-wise from these characters' perspective as well. Peel back from the different events, peel back from people and their motivations and their ultimate goals. And on top of that, battling with your own trials, with your own fears, with your own self on the inside. Not just with Rin, but with all of the characters. And especially that ending, what happened at that ending, it made me realize again that, you know what? I was being too complacent. I was being too comfortable where I am, or how I think and look at these characters. It turned around and bit me. I hate it, and I'm stopping myself from crying because I don't want to cry. But oh my god, this book. Also, the experience, the Western people, right from the very beginning, my thoughts were like, oh, colonizers. Yep, colonizers. Especially with, them wanting to, with their idea of, spreading their own religion, with them wanting to educate the Eastern, because from their barbaric ways, from their foolishness, from their ignorance, was a bit triggering for me, because that's how it was in the Philippines as well. When the Spaniards came to our shores, they wanted to spread their religion. They wanted to cure us of our barbaricness and, get rid of our ignorance. It's not even just a whole supremacist thinking that they're superior to us, and them coming to our land and teaching us their ways, teaching us their religion is them saving us. That was really triggering. I was like, that is exactly, like, the historical accuracy of it is impeccable, and the way that it was included on here, I just really appreciated, because that's exactly how it is. And I've never read it in any fantasy books. I think especially because it's an Asian standpoint, or like an Eastern standpoint, a Western stand, I don't know. It made me mad, because it literally, the things that they say are literally exactly what they were the intentions of the Spaniards when they came to our shores. And so it was just like I felt like I was reading an account of a Filipino who lived during that time and are interacting with the Spaniards. It was a lot. It was a lot. It was a lot. So that's Dragon Republic. How do you talk about a book that second book in a series? It's a lot of trigger warnings, a lot of content warnings. Go to this run very carefully. But the plot, the execution of the plot, the characters, different layers and complexities of the characters and the way they interact with each other, the way, they're just different events affect them in different ways. These events affect them is just so compelling to read. I will be reading Burning God tomorrow. I'll be starting it. I don't know how I'm gonna do. I'm very scared of where we left off. Seeing where it might go. Let's find out. Hello. So I'm 107 pages in The Burning God, and we're definitely building up. So far, I feel like Rin is learning a lot. She is this person who's full of anger, full of resentment towards a lot of things, a lot of the things that she has gone through, a lot of the betrayals, and a lot of the misplaced loyalties that she had before. So she has a lot of anger. She is starting to learn to rein in that anger and that impulsiveness and that need to just burn everything down when she's not able to control things. And that's the thing about her. She wants control. She needs control, but she doesn't know how to be in control. And so she's starting to find other ways to kind of compensate for that. And I think it's also very evident that she has gone a long way from the first and the second book. She still has a long way to go. She's still our anti-hero. She's still very morally gray. I mean, they all are, like I mentioned. But now Rin, I feel like, is putting words to the things that she's doing. Because back then, especially in the Dragon Republic, after everything that she has experienced, she is constantly having these like defense mechanisms of pushing her guilt down. But in the beginning, I think she wasn't aware of these things that she's doing. And eventually, when she started to become a bit more aware of this, she doesn't want to really think about it. She doesn't want to dwell on it. She doesn't want to acknowledge what she was doing and why she was doing it. But I think she kind of knew. She just didn't want to process it. In this third book, she's actually putting words into the things that she's doing. She's acknowledging the things that she's done, the way that she pushes things down because she didn't want to dwell on it. And, especially with everything that she has experienced, how that has affected her, and in turn how she has acted because of those effects, and the consequences and the guilt that those actions have on her. So again, she's just someone who has a lot of guilt because of the things that she has done. She's full of rage. Okay, she has a lot of anger within her because of I think it built up from the way she was treated growing up, to when she got to Synagard, to how she got treated as a shaman. Everything that happened in the Dragon Republic, she just has a lot of anger that has built up and built up and built up throughout her years. Now she has a very different role this time, where we are in The Burning God. She's trying her best after everything that has happened. She is learning a lot where she is now, dealing with everything that has happened to her in the previous book, because a lot of things happened to her, much more so I think than the first book, because in the first book it's a more widely experienced thing, the things that she has gone through because of the war, and they were all kind of thrust into, and her experiences as a shaman, what it meant also is very different. In the second book, she is just much more central to the plot, and so a lot of things were happening to her, a lot of things were being done to her that is in a way unique, but it's still like suffering and brutal. And I feel like she has gone so far. She's still a lot of things to learn. I feel like this book so far, 100 pages in, is just going to be a lot of relearning for her, and it's a whole nother like character arc for her, which is great, because a lot of the times with series, the character arcs kind of are very minimal once like the main character arcs happen. But for this series, along with like the plots getting bigger and more layered and more complex, and everything is like in shades of gray, we also get characters that get arcs from each, and like big arcs in their characters for each book. So I just really appreciate that, and I'm looking forward to where Rin is gonna go from here. Because she has I feel like she's just gonna learn a lot of things in like a different facet. Because I feel like in the first and the second book, it's a lot about her powers and her controlling her powers and dealing with what her powers bring and how people are going to regard her and treat her. In this book, she has much more agency, I think. It's hard to talk about it without spoiling again, but yes, I'm looking forward to reading and seeing where we're going, because I feel like she's now, because she has spurs into her guilt and what she really has done and why that really truly affects her. She is kind of seeing things a little bit clearer now, because she's not pushing things away and ignoring things or letting herself not feel. She's still doing it, of course. It's not going to be an instant change for her, especially. That's it for Burning God right now. A lot of things to say, and I'm only 100 pages in, 6th of the way through. So see you guys tomorrow, hopefully, when I read a little bit more. Not much of an update right now, just need to mention it. I'm 136 pages in, and the last few pages have been really reminiscent of the things that I read in my history books from when the Japanese occupied the Philippines as well. They're so reminiscent of the books and the accounts and the films that were made, the Japanese occupation, that it just felt like I was reading an account of somebody's experience during those times. And it's just like, it's so similar to the things that we experienced, like real life things that happened during the occupation by the Japanese. And it's a lot. It's a lot. Very difficult to read. Even that part where she found a letter by one of the generals, even that was kind of similar to something that I also either read or heard about one of the Japanese like officers, I guess. So yeah, it's just like I don't know. Anyway, that's it for right now. Just Rin continues to really put into words and kind of process a little bit the things that she's doing, the things that she's experienced, the things that she's feeling. And it's refreshing, but at the same time, it's frustrating, but I understand it, because she acknowledges the things that she's done wrong. And sometimes she atones for it, and sometimes she feels guilty for it. But she knows for a fact that she would have made the same decisions over and over again if she went back in time, knowing, the things that she knows. She would still have done the same things. She would still have, even at the cost of the guilt that she feels and the amount of pain and loss that has given to her, and the thing that she's seen from other people as well, which of course I understand. She's had to make those own decisions, and right now she's really owning up to what made her choose those things, but also the effects of those decisions that she has made. Like, she's really like trying to face now what those decisions are and what they mean. And it's a lot to process, for her. She has a lot of trauma, and that's part of her trauma. And yeah, so that's it for right now. I'm gonna read a little bit more. I'll probably go to sleep. I don't know. I'll try to sleep. Last night I couldn't sleep. Hello. I am 270 pages of The Burning God, and we are getting a lot of things plot-wise, like development plot-wise. Character-wise, I think we had to pause a little bit, because now it's more plot-heavy at this point in the story, and it's kind of circling back to the very first book, and it's so interesting. It is so interesting. I'm very curious about what's going to happen and how that's going to come to be. Again, it's just like things are like connecting to the things that we learned and discovered in the first book and the second book, and it's just like everything's kind of going full circle now, and it's like, I don't know, I am getting hyped up. I think I'm about 70 pages from I think 60 to 70 pages from the halfway point. And I don't know what else could happen, because a lot of things are already happening now. But I'm very interested. I feel like I know what's going to happen for like a good chunk of the second half of the book. And I'm excited. And I stopped at the end of chapter 15. And it's a really good part of the book. And well, I just had to stop because it's like 12:21 a.m. So I'm very excited. And there's a lot of questions being raised as well, because of the changes that are happening in Nagara with the inclusion of, the Western people. And questions are also being raised by well, one of the characters that we're following. And it's kind of like a very similar question, a very like a natural way of thinking for somebody who's going through what's happening here. That is it for right now. Hopefully by Friday, I'll finish this one and I'll have the vlog up in a few days. I don't know. We'll see. Hello, friends. It's been a while since my last update. Today is 15th. Yeah, January 15th. It's Friday. And I finished The Burning God earlier this morning. I think around 12:15. So technically today, but I want to say it's last night. But before I get into what happened in this book, because I think my last update was when I was halfway through, I'm currently self-isolating because I got heavily exposed to someone with COVID. It's not even just like a few minutes in the same room, but it's like 12 hours in the same room with that person infected, because I was watching over my cousin. It was my cousin at the hospital, and we didn't know that she had COVID. She didn't come there for COVID. We found out that she was positive. So, you know, I was taking care of her. I was in contact with her, and she wasn't wearing a mask for the majority of the time that I was there, but I was wearing 2 masks while I was there. She got discharged the same day, and so when I got home, I started self-isolating. That was last night, and I don't have any symptoms so far. I didn't get really sleepy earlier, but I think that's because of just the weather, and I don't know. I don't know, I was really sleepy earlier, but aside from that, but I wasn't tired, I was just really sleepy. Aside from that, yeah, no symptoms. I don't have fever, I don't have a cough, I don't even have any like cold. So I'm, you know, still self-isolating for a few days and then taking a test in a little bit in a few days. But the 5th day, I think that's like the guideline, right? So I'll be taking a test on the 5th day, and if I'm negative, then I can leave. If I'm positive, I'm gonna have to quarantine myself until the symptoms go away. The CDC guidelines, like the new ones, are not really, I'm not gonna follow it. I don't want to go, I don't know, I just don't want to infect anybody else, even if, you know, it's only slight sickness. I don't know, I just don't want to. That's why I'm self-isolating, even though I don't have any symptoms at all. Like, I don't want to risk it. So my family's been bringing me food while I'm in here, and I like kicked out my siblings in our shared bathroom just for like the 5 days. I mean, if I'm negative, then, you know, everything will be back to normal, but if I'm positive, then it's gonna take a while. But let's get into the book. I cried when I finished this. Of course I did. I mean, what do you expect? Okay, the ending was, listen, okay, I wasn't sure about the ending. I hated it at first because of, you know, how it made me feel, because I was crying a lot. It was just really, I was in pain. That's why I hated the ending. But I think it was a kind of right ending, no matter how painful it was. I don't like it. I don't like the fact that the ending had to be that. I didn't expect to be crying. Oh my god. It was the kind of ending that didn't make sense with everything that's happened from the first book. The reason why it's so hard for me to talk about the ending is, well, you know, because it is painful, and it's the ending. It's the accumulation of where everything essentially was building up to. The journey that I followed the characters through from the beginning. It's not just, even though it was Rin's story, it's also everybody else's story, and everyone that she met and formed deep bonds with. I think we can do this now. I don't know. Okay, so a lot of things happen in this book, obviously. It's the last book in the series, and again, it's building up from where we left from the second book. After all that happened, a lot of things happened, a lot more things happened here. I feel like this book series is really great with a mixture of the plot versus more character-driven story. Even though I think it's more heavily the characters that I cared about, obviously the plot worked really well. There is logic in the plot, and it didn't feel like the characters were just following a certain script or just flowing through the plot, and then we see them change and grow, etc. It works together. The plot is as important to the story as the characters are, and I don't know, it's a really good melding of both. But again, to me, it's really the characters that, you know, made me care for this book. Mainly following Rin's story, but we are also getting to know all these people that have made an impact on her, positive or negative. And we see her grow, we see her change from a 14-year-old, 13, 14-year-old, just trying to give herself the best chance that she could, working herself to the bone, just to get her life to be better, and then just trying to survive, and eventually finding, you know, what she wants to fight for, because she had that ability now to fight for others. And in the first book, and even in the second book, we see Rin go through a lot of things, all of them really, but because we're following her perspective, we know that she's not processing the things that are happening to her. She's not putting them into words. But here, we, especially even in the first part, I'm seeing her really put into words the things that she's going through, what she's feeling, and why she's feeling that way, and how. So she's slowly processing everything that she has been doing, and the things that happened to her, and how that has affected her. She's slowly kind of healing in a way, but because it's only her, and even that alone, plus the fact that she's still going through a lot of things, is making it very difficult for her. But I really appreciate the way that she has grown, in that she's really letting herself feel these emotions and really putting towards these emotions and just processing all of it in the best way that she can, with everything that's still being thrown at her. And I feel like her growth is very evident, especially comparing it to how she was before, especially now when she's face to face with her enemies, her opponents. She's always saying things could have been different, you could have won, but I didn't, we're not so different. She's saying that she's not better than he is, or if anything, they have a lot of good in them as well, or they have a lot of good in them, and they could be good to the country, to the people, but they didn't win, she did. And so she won, and so it's going to be her now that's going to be the South's hero, or the one who saved the South. It's especially evident in those two characters that she faces in the book. And I love how this book really explores war and two sides of war, and how it's never the bad guys versus the good guys. It's only ever gray. There are good and there are bad in both sides. Yes, a lot of the times there is one side that is more oppressed, and we see that throughout history. I feel from obviously what I know of history and wars and all that, it's never black and white. There are good and bad things to both sides, whether they're the oppression or not, or they're the ones being oppressed. I'm talking more especially of the individual sides. There are good soldiers and there are bad soldiers, and there are soldiers who have no choice but to be part of this war, even though they would rather not be. And there are soldiers who revel in the war and the killing and the blood and the violence, and who believe in what they're doing, whether that's oppressing people or otherwise. I love that it explores that, but it never, I feel changes how it has been for history, the truth of the different wars that we've gone through as a civilization. It's a bit hard to read sometimes because it echoes a lot of what happened in my own history in the Philippines, with the different occupations that we have had, and even the different reasonings why we were colonized and occupied by these different people. It was a bit hard to read sometimes, but I love that it was included in here, and that was well incorporated, in my opinion. And again, Rin as a character, that's why I couldn't stop crying earlier, because these characters they felt real to me. They felt like actual kids who have gone through so much, and it's not even because of it didn't even rooted from them. They were just under this war, and they were just trying to survive. The roles that they eventually had to take, or they eventually had, wasn't something that they've always fought for. And I think it's not something that they would have wanted. I don't think any of us would have. And it's the accumulation of everything from the first book. Whew, it's hard to talk about it. I love this book so much. I guess you can tell. This book series. I really didn't expect to be this emotional. And it's hard for me to actually talk without breaking down. I just love this book so much. There's a lot in terms of the plot, but especially the characters. It is amazing. It's the kind of book that will stay with me for a very long time. This book. We finally reached the end of this reading vlog. We're ending with tears, which I really thought I wasn't going to cry. Maybe get emotional, but not have a hard time actually expressing myself because I'm crying too much, but here we are. Thank you for watching. Really, thank you so much for watching. Sorry about the crying, but I will see you on my next video.